And we're live. Hey guys.
It looks like you're sitting up. Hey, it looks like Alex is sitting up nice and straight there.
Yeah.
And of course Anthony's got his shoes off like usual. Welcome to Decentral Vancouver. This is Blocktalk. I'm Freddie Hartline. This is our co-host Alex Stirk.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Stirk. We're currently on Bitcoin block 357,643. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that happened in the last 1,000 blocks here that we're going to talk about. So let's introduce our panel.
Okay.
Starting off, we have Jackfruit, also goes by Jack.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess tell us a quick bit about yourself for those of us at home that don't know who exactly you are, what you specialize in.
Right, so I've been trading alts for a little over a year. I got into Bitcoin, I think last March was when I purchased my first Bitcoin. And I saw the opportunity in trading alts, the crazy volume, the crazy volatility with alts. And so I got attracted to that. And it was really my first experience trading. So it was quite an experience in terms of learning that process of going from a noob to being a better trader and using those skills in not only in alts but in other markets as well.
Very good. Glad to have you here on our panel. Next, we kind of have a familiar guest, Brian, the Rational Investor.
Hey there, how's it going, gang?
Hi, Brian. Glad to have
Look
you
at
back
this.
again.
We might just watch a barn burner here while we got the show on here tonight.
What do we got? What are we talking about? Is that Bitcoin?
He's looking at IO coin right now.
Oh, IO coin.
Yeah, so it looks like it's got a little bit of action since we had them on the show. It was like 2 weeks ago we had the dev panel.
Yeah.
So it looks like they've kind of, it's definitely more than a bull trap. That's very interesting. We'll go more in depth on that in a little bit here, Brian. Let's introduce our last guest.
Last guest is
William. I know him as SoulCal from the Arch Slack. Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, well, first off, what's going on, guys? I got into Bitcoin and alts about the same time Jack did, about February, March of last year. I knew of Bitcoin damn near close to when it came out, but just never really paid attention like a fucking moron. But, what can you do?
Yeah, like so many of us.
Yeah, I've been involved with, and still am involved, just to a lesser extent, but been involved with VRC, Vericoin, and a lot of people know me from that, apparently. And now I'm kind of in there. I'm with Arch as well, and just kind of doing my thing, trying to make it like everyone else,
Very good. No, we're happy to have you. Now we got a pretty good full panel. We were supposed to have Kaz from Kazonomics, but he didn't show. Whatever. So today is a special day in the Bitcoin space. It's Bitcoin Pizza Day. So for
we got pizza.
So we bought pizza today.
So we bought pizza today, guys. So this is what happened. Last week we had our bet.
Yep.
We have a bet every week. So at the end of the show today, guys, we're all gonna make a bet on what Bitcoin's gonna be at in 1,000 blocks.
Yep.
Right. So just about 1,000 blocks. And I won the bet. I bet 240, and it blocked out at 240 exactly, 240.37.
Yep.
Which is the first time I've won anything in like so long. And Alex decided to take it upon himself to spend my money and buy pizza with it today.
Of course.
Which was really great because, who needs money when you have pizza?
Exactly.
So we're going to share that pizza. And I took one pizza today. First pizza was bought for how much?
It was 10,000 Bitcoin. I don't know if it was 4 or 3 years ago. Was the first public purchase of something other than money with Bitcoin.
Yeah. And how much was that 10,000 coin worth now?
It's like 2.8.
Right?
I think that's right.
Freaking crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So and there's something else happened today. Something else happened today, right, guys? Wasn't there like a breach of security at Bitfinex or something?
Yep, that was our next topic, I guess. So the Bitfinex hack happened today. I guess what have you guys been hearing about what happened? And so SoulCal, were you affected at all by the Bitfinex hack?
Actually, no, I was not. Luckily, I keep my shit spread out pretty far and wide, and just so happened to luck out and not have anything on Finex. So, yeah, that didn't affect me. The last major hack that really fucked with me was when Bearcoin got hacked on MintPal back in the day. That was the last major thing that really messed with my portfolio. But like I said, I got lucky this time and dodged the Finex bullet.
Very good. Jack, what about you? Do you got any coins on Finex?
No, I didn't have any coins in Finex. There've been quite a bit of warning signs. I don't know if you follow BTC Drac on Twitter. He's been warning everyone about Finex. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at their volume has been dropping recently, and volume's been going to OKCoin. So for some reason, you could tell that the whales, the high volume guys, they weren't comfortable with what was going on behind the scenes at Finex. So there've been warning signs.
That was definitely brought up on our last show with a lot of the European guys that Finex is really dropping the ball on some of their upgrades.
It's interesting.
I guess this is just the next step in that sort of thing. Like,
it's very interesting, hey?
Yeah.
The developers almost like talk about their vulnerabilities, and the traders get in because that's kind of like the next step is from developers to traders, and here it's happened. I got stung on Gox years ago.
Yeah, luckily, most of us, I guess, came after that.
Yeah. So, what are we going to talk about again today? So we talked about that a bit.
Yeah, but we'll go to Brian, I guess, talk about the little bit of Bitcoin action that actually happened during this hack. Normally, this type of news will actually crash the price. It did something crazy. It went up about $10 today. So, Brian, I don't know if you can give us a little 101 on Bitcoin at the moment.
Is that my job here? All right. Let's see.
What do you think, I guess, what's your opinion of this Bitcoin hack on the exchange? Do you think it's, I guess, shifting the industry more towards regulated exchanges, or are we all just going to flee to China for all our trading?
I remember somebody a while ago said that they figured that they were actually, who was that lead developer that was getting out of OKCoin? They said that region had sort of seen its peak.
Oh, wow.
I don't know whether you remember that. That was about 6-8 months ago or so. Do you remember that? Anyway, I believe that Bitcoin is going through a transitionary process now. And I kind of have a feeling that Wall Street is kind of arriving.
Yeah.
And so you guys remember the Silk Road reversal, right? I mean, that started out as a very bad negative, but by the end of the day, it actually put in what technically is called a hammer. And that actually marked a pretty significant reversal. What I find interesting about Bitcoin, and let's see if I can find the chart here, we've actually been working a bullish pattern on Stamp for a while now. And it, what I find really interesting, I'm a big fan of moving averages as sort of giving you a sort of trend direction. And I noticed that we crossed bullish here recently, and even with this recent downslide, we really didn't reverse that. So I'm kind of feeling like that. I mean, I'm still on balance feeling relatively bullish as long as this double bottom holds on Stamp.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's, I guess, get into some of the altcoins that kind of came up this week. There was the SendChat ICO. I know I put a little bit of money in, but they had a very reasonable goal of about 90 Bitcoins, but I think they only got about 15 or 20 by the end of the week. Did any of you guys buy into the SendChat ICO, initial coin offering?
This guy.
I didn't this time. I did the first time. I didn't this time. I did the first time though.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I didn't the first time, but the second time around I did.
Yeah, because I think he got almost 200 BTC the first time, right?
It was. I think it was 210.
Yeah, they needed something like, was it 250 the first time?
No, their first goal was 300.
300, okay.
Yeah.
And they got 200, right?
Yeah, a little over to it, like 210, something like that.
Yeah. So this
Yeah, it's
time around they got to 90.
kind of a shame. I think it's a pretty good idea, but it's also a very tough thing to break into with the Send Chat. Like, they're basically trying to launch a new messenger app, which if like BlackBerry can't do a turnaround on BBM, then I don't know how you're going to break in with a new product. Like, even if you do have like Bitcoin and altcoin integration and everything. But maybe that's something they can do now. They can reach out, maybe try and pair with BlackBerry. I think the BBM with the QR codes, that'd probably be a good way for them to break into the market. Could be. Maybe BlackBerry would like to. We'll pass this along to Alejandro and see if he can make those connections and get that going.
Yeah.
Who's Alejandro again?
He was supposed to come last week on the European panel. He's a developer or the marketing guy behind SendChat Coin.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I got a question for you guys, if you don't mind. You're talking about altcoins. I was all over this thing, and we just made a killing this week. What the heck's the story behind this VTC?
Vertcoin went nuts, eh?
And I still have
Yeah.
more coins. I'm just slowly spoon feeding the market coins. It's wonderful. Yay!
At least one of us won, yeah, huh?
Well, I hope you won. That's
Yeah.
But anyway, tell me the story behind this. What happened here?
Vertcoin's a funny anomaly. Like, it's a coin that I guess everyone, their algorithm is based so it doesn't get mined by ASICs, like purpose-built computer chips.
Yeah.
So you can only mine it with like gaming graphics cards and personal PCs. So there was it was up to like $1, I think, last summer, or maybe it was a little bit before that. And it finally kind of, I guess, crashed when all the miners decided to cash out. But for the longest time, it was a really good source of revenue for miners.
Yeah, look at this thing. I mean, it's got forever to go. I mean, God, we're going to make a fortune on this damn thing. It's beautiful. We got in down here at 4,200, 4,300. And I mean, this is a gift. It's awesome. So, is there any like specific news or something that's driving this?
Well, we had a Litecoin thing happen today too, which was just kind of like an anomaly.
There's a couple altcoins that all pumped that we can talk about tonight. So
it seems like, if I may, sorry,
Yeah,
it just seems like there's a bit of a rush on the altcoins right now.
not new ones this week though. It was a lot of like older ones from like last January time. Like Blackcoin went up, Vertcoin, Maxcoin, and then Litecoin. Like a lot of these old coins got pumped up. A lot of people are saying they're pumping up for the summer sells. So I don't know if they're going to be sustaining at this level.
Oh yeah, what's that saying, Brian? Sell in May and go away.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see lots of pressure on the broader market. It'd be interesting to see how I think Bitcoin topped out last year, like June 2nd or something like that, or maybe. Yeah, well, I got a chart here. I'm a technician. I suppose I could give you that number. Which one is it? Over here?
He's looking for that. Just while I cut in real quick, I noticed looks like Can's starting to get some volume back too.
Well, that's good. Hey, you guys should check out my Twitter feed. I did a big write-up on Can if you want it. It's for free out there. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, yeah, I've noticed a couple coins picking up. Not really. I mean, Can's only like October is when it came out, something like that, of last year. So it's not as old as the others, but like Litecoin and Vertcoin and everything. But I did notice that all of a sudden the volume on Can today, it's been hovering from around like about one Bitcoin volume a day, maybe a little less. And today it's up to like 11. It's still going.
See what she looks like. Not bad. Yeah, in fact, the write-up I did was they've washed out the premium in this thing, right? And actually, somebody asked me, can you guys see the double bottom here? Can you see this W? It's tough to see. Let's maybe go to a daily chart. So that W here, basically this rally, right? Major risk premium built into CAN, and they brought it back down here. And look at it, it's trying to W again. So this is encouraging. That looks good.
Yep. Actually, your one of your former students, Romano, said the same sort of thing. He's buying back into CAN again. So
Really?
I think a lot of the big-time traders are recognizing that CAN is probably at a good buying spot again. Might do a similar pattern.
All right. So what? Romano can move the market? That scares me.
You got too much power.
Wow. Do you know how much you follow Romano for real?
Pardon me?
Huh?
What did you
Cut out. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was saying a lot of people follow Romano, like listen, follow what he says. So
Yeah, well, you gotta love Romano. What I like about Romano is he has that zest for life. You know, he's full of life. I love that about him. So, anyway,
oh yeah,
I'll go on mute. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry, guys.
I keep interrupting you. Sorry, I was just gonna finish up saying, yeah, that's nice to know that I beat the big dogs for once. I've been buying into CAN since it went to almost 1,000. So I've been slowly accumulating this whole time.
CAN hasn't been below 1,000 for several months. So 1,000
No.
seems like
I'm saying when it got to around 1,000, just like a week or so ago. It was like it dipped below 1,100 a few times to like the 1080s, 1090s. I picked up a couple bags on those drops.
Nice. Well articulated. William, if you feel like it, you have been cutting in and out, although we do love to see your face. If you can either move closer to your base station or maybe go to audio, it might be better for production, although it is nice to see him, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, you can turn down your bandwidth, too. That's another good one.
But I think he's on his phone. Are you on your phone right now?
Yeah, I'm on my phone outside.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. All right, we'll leave it like that then.
So,
okay.
Jack, do you got any alts from the week that you wanted to talk about? What's looking good right now?
Yeah, one I'm paying attention to right now is Gambit, which the ICO ended a few days ago, and the market opened earlier today. The ICO price was 10K Satoshi, and I think it's trading over ICO price now. I think that coin has a bit of potential, to say the least. It's a project by Colin Crypto on Twitter. And the basic idea behind this coin that he's devised is that he's going to have a trading fund, and he's going to have traders, well-known traders, manage a certain portion of the fund. So they will make calls, and he will execute them. So the funds won't be in the trader's hands. And based on how the traders are performing, if the traders perform better, they get more of the fund to manage. And so I don't know if you follow Noob Getting Rich on Twitter, where he follows calls from people on Twitter, and he's been able to expand his BTC holdings just by following people's calls on Twitter. I think the basic idea is following that idea. And so what Colin, I think, is going to do is that profits that are made from traders managing his fund is going to be used to buy Gambit on the open market and burn those coins, which I think is a bit of a gimmick, really. But the idea is that it's going to be deflationary and increase demand for the coin. So I expect it to provide quite a bit of volatility and quite a bit of volume. And as a trader, you can't really ask for more besides volatility and volume.
What's the symbol?
GAM, G-A-M.
You're only going to get about a day of data, Brian. They did an ICO like on Bittrex, and so far what I've been hearing from a lot of top traders is they're all setting buys again at the ICO levels because they don't see this really going below. It might be the 1 in 1,000 ICOs that decides to actually stay above levels. It's pretty cool. It's a gaming coin, I guess, where he has a whole website where you can either pay to play or you can do free play. But
oh, wow. Yeah, check this out. I mean, somebody came in and just bought a whack of this thing. I can see why. You know, you guys see how this is almost basically like a floor here, right?
So that's the ICO, Brian. It's they
Well,
set
no,
the
that was here, right? That was this bar
It was
here,
at 10K sats. Yeah.
right? This is a 1 day chart. So the point here is that I agree. I see. You just said, this thing's probably not going to go below that initial coin offering price, and I kind of have to agree. This thing, it came out big hammer. They could have dumped it, and someone said no, right? And then somebody came in and said, "All right, time to go," and away we go. And actually, technically speaking, this thing should actually duplicate this range. So it actually should ultimately top out somewhere up there. Where's that? Right up there. 22 whatever. Up there.
All right. Well, an interesting fact. I
All
actually
right.
talked to Colin, the guy behind the coin, and he might be coming on our Salon Talks on Thursday when we're doing a gaming on the blockchain conversation. So we're looking forward to having him next Thursday, and yeah, maybe the price will achieve that level.
I'd probably do that by the end of this conversation. Bang! But anyway, sorry, I'm just throwing my 2 cents in as an old trader. Sorry.
Great, Brian. We're glad to have you. Do you think you could pull up the Litecoin chart though? Like, let's talk about Litecoin for a bit because
Yeah, that was sweet. I mean, you literally can't write a better bottom. It was so beautiful. And I don't know, did you see my tweet? Because I tweeted just as it was about to go, and I tweeted.
No, you didn't. Did you?
Yeah,
Did he?
my
Fucking
tweet
God.
was. Hold on, I'll load it up here.
He does this shit all the time, guys. He
Brian,
calls this stuff right out of his butt
Yeah.
all the time. Brian,
Yeah.
you're turning into a bit of a legend on us here.
Okay, so don't get my head too big here, okay? All right, so here back on May 29th, I said, do we dare get bullish on Litecoin again?
Yeah.
And look at the chart. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, look at that. That is absolutely textbook. That's exactly what you want to see as a technician. Isn't that incredible? So there it is. Bang! Do you have the balls to step in and pull the trigger?
But the thing
Yeah.
is, I'm going to jump in and I'm just going to say something, is that nobody has been talking about Litecoin forever because nobody really likes it.
Yeah. I'm
But
trying
you got to
to.
understand that that's a trader's life, right? You have to understand that the guys that make money trading, they buy what others are selling and then they sell what others are buying. So like that VTC, for example, that I'm talking about earlier, I'm not buying it here. I'm slowly selling. You want more? Here you go. Merry Christmas. Take all you want. Right? I mean, that's how the pros make money in the markets. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
look at this W. I mean, look at this W. It's sick. I've talked to you guys about this. Down, up, down, away you go. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see that. It's a W. There's a W there.
Oh yeah. I love the win.
All right. Anyway, I'll go back on mute. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I mean, fantastic trade. You know me. Sell half on a double. So where are we here? We're at 20. So, geez, I'm getting to be an old man. That's not 20, is it? That's 62. So if you did do that trade, I'd actually be saying you should have orders. This might be a pretty big objective, but really your orders should be up here at about 25 or so. Let's see on a bigger scale whether that even makes sense. Oh yeah, that's easily achievable. So, look at that. Oh, wouldn't that's cocktail party conversation, right? If you could tell your friends, look, this is where I bought it. Wouldn't that be sick? Right? And then all we're asking for is just a test of these highs, right? And a test of these lows. There's lots and lots of people that bought Litecoin in here, and they're just praying, for God's sake, just get it back to this level, and I'll sell it. I'll never buy another crypto again, right? You guys have heard the story. So really, a rally into this area is not totally out of the question. Obviously, you should be spoon feeding the market here. I probably wouldn't really like this trade because I couldn't get a double at it really quickly. In comparison, right? This VTC. I mean, I hate to hearken on it back, but it has given me doubles twice now. So I could get my money back and get on free coins really quickly. This is going to take a bit of work. All right, I'll be quiet now.
Was that in dollars? I couldn't see it.
No, I think that was in Satoshis.
No.
So I think the price Brian's talking about is about $5.
Are we at $5 already?
No, we're only at like $2. We bumped from like $1.50 up to like $2 today.
So what about fundamentally? I mean, maybe William wants to talk about the fundamentals of Litecoin. If you guys or Jack or not Jack, who's the other guy?
Yeah, that's Jack.
Yeah, Jack or William, whoever wants to talk about the fundamentals of Litecoin. Where are we with Litecoin? Who's going to be using it? Like, are there any fundamentals?
Should have just died.
Yeah, I mean, Litecoin is the coin that people always wonder what development's going on with Litecoin. They don't seem to put a lot of development. But it's established itself as as Charlie Lee marketed it as the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it got pumped to $48 a couple of years ago. So it's always had this place as the top alt.
My friends got it around $33. Some of them got it under $2.
I think I bought it 10.
So since it was pumped to that $48, it's just been in a huge downtrend. To below $1. So maybe it's bouncing out of that downtrend. I don't know.
It's popular because the volume, but it's got volume because it's popular.
Yeah, it's got a lot of volume. It's on most of the big exchanges, and you got margin trading with LTC, and so it does a lot of volume.
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry to interrupt here. I love this concept, and I've told you guys this before. Tails and wicks, that's outside the candle bodies, they love to get eaten, right? And I think this is an excellent example where the market just slowly ate up this tail. Nom, 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 nom. And I think it's fantastic to see that the bottom of the tail held here. So if this thing can rally back, and you like to quote it in dollars, so if this thing can close back above $2.40, she's off to the races again. Woohoo! We should probably look at momentum and stuff, but I'll go back on mute and I'll work on that chart.
Well, I don't know. One thing I think Litecoin has going for it, since it has so much volume, is it gets used a lot for arbitrage. Like people going in between exchanges, they don't want to wait 10 minutes when they can go buy Litecoin and then get to the next exchange in like a quarter of that time. So I think the high volume just becomes a tool for people who do arbitrage, and that's why it has value still.
That's interesting.
And even today, I think people were actually buying it on Finex to try and get their funds out of Finex. Well, Finex wasn't allowing BTC withdrawals. I think they were allowing LTC withdrawals.
That makes fucking total sense. Brian, you got a comment? You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I like the sound of that. That's really, really good information. Thank you very much for that tidbit.
Super good.
It seemed to be perfectly timed with the hack. So.
Yeah, Jack, you just won yourself a free beer somehow.
Yeah,
we can get it to you.
We'll mail it to you or something.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. Yeah, that makes fundamental sense.
Oh yeah.
Sweet, dude. All right, so what's the next topic?
Brian, you were gonna pull up the momentum chart there for Litecoin. Oh, he's muted.
Yeah, we've got. I don't see anything to write home about here on the weeklies yet.
Okay.
Daily. Really, we want to see a volume bar higher than this one, so it's good to see. The bulls are in control right now. You can see the volume, steadily rising. Momentum on the dailies, not bad. Can you guys see this bull momentum divergence here? So we did have reason to look for a rally. I don't think a this rally actually is too surprising. You guys see that divergence there? So really the question here is, do the bulls lose control? So watch volume closely. If we go down to 4 hours, what you're really looking for, again, good old M's and W's. If we see this kind of pattern develop on the buying, right, you can see right now it's all green right now, all buying, right? If we start to see, like, let's say, lower this next big volume bar, if it only goes up to, say, there, lower than there, watch for this pattern that might suggest that the buyers are exhausted. So no signs of it yet. Very strong on the intradays, lots and lots of green, and really no reason to think short yet. But that's what I would be watching for, is the signs that the volume has petered out and it needs to take a pause.
Oh, that's good. I know one person who's kind of famous in the space said he bought Litecoin a couple days ago anyways, and he was super excited the price went up, David Seaman. So when he's excited and going off the wall about a coin going to the moon, you got to step back and reevaluate on if you should sell off a little bit to get your money back.
Well, it goes both ways, because people talk about the Seaman indicator, and the reason for that is that he's kind of an emotional trader. So, when things are going up, he gets excited and he buys. And, when things are going down, he gets really emotional and he quits. He rage quits Twitter and says that Bitcoin is dead. So people, look at his emotions and say, well, when he's excited, you probably should be selling, and when he's quitting is when you should be buying. But sometimes he gets it right. So if you just use him as a blind indicator, as some people do, you're gonna get wrecked sometimes. You gotta look at
the Seaman
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of the Seaman? The Seaman.
The Seaman indicator.
The Seaman indicator, William. What are your thoughts on the Seaman indicator?
Oh man. All right. So I'm just gonna gloss over the easy jokes.
Yeah, I know, true.
And is that it's God. Like you said, it's pretty. You could what would be a good way to put it? Just like they're saying that when he gets things start going up, he's all happy, getting excited. Oh, look, Seaman's back on Twitter, yay! Second Bitcoin turns back around, rage quit. Jeez. Crash and burn. It's terrible.
It's the perfect, public sentiment indicator. He definitely has like the same sort of mentality, I think, of a lot of the emotional traders that are in the space. So it's good to kind of get a grip on like.
Yeah. He made a good trade with LTC though. The technicals were looking good, and he bought it.
Yeah, he was due. So I don't know, Freddie, could you share my screen here? I wanted to actually do a little commercial spot for two bots that are on Twitter right now that everyone should be following. So if you're into mining new coins and you want to get right on the jump on stuff that's coming out, you should follow JBS Anbot. So this is scouring the Bitcoin top threads and posting about all the new coins that are coming out, so you can usually get the jump on mining before everyone else. This is a very well done bot. Like I thank Julian immensely for it, and I really hope we can get him on the show one day. The other one I want to put a shout out to is Altcoin Live Bot. So this one tweets about buy walls and sell walls on Bittrex. So very good. This is another one I like having on my feed. So I just want to take a moment to recognize these two awesome Twitter bots. And hopefully they get a couple more followers tonight because they definitely deserve it.
Yeah, LiveBot's a good one. I've been following that one for a while. It's pretty useful.
I want to add a shout out to that Altcoin Live as well. He has a website called altcoinlive.com, and he has nice charts from the different exchanges there. He's done a lot of stuff for altcoin traders. as far as I can tell, without getting much compensation from it. So it's a very useful resource. And of course, JApps, Julian's Twitter bot is quite useful too as well, because there was another Twitter bot beyond BTC and Twitter that tweeted new coins, which was quite useful as well. But Julian seems to be a lot faster, 20 minutes faster. As well as Julian has applied some logic to try and filter out topics that aren't new coins as best as he can.
Yeah, and I've seen he has actually a couple warnings on it too, like scam tags and whatnot as well. So it's definitely a tool for any new trader or seasoned trader that wants to be on the cutting edge. So maybe we can talk about another coin here, Veracoin, VRC. We had them on the show a couple weeks ago along with IOCoin, and there's actually some pretty good price action going on there too. So I was curious to hear your thoughts on Veracoin, guys.
Yeah, I'll just say I called it.
I don't think anyone can argue with you about that, William.
I just wanted to say I called it. I was put out like a month ago when it was like 5,000. I was saying Veracoin, let's buy it. Easy triple. Sorry, I'm moving my phone here. I made an easy triple on this Veracoin action in the past few weeks, though.
That's great. Hopefully, everyone followed along. I guess with did we lose Brian now?
Yeah. Brian's there.
Yeah, like I think they got some pretty good movement. What are you seeing there, Brian, on the chart?
Hey there. Sorry about that. Yeah, nice breakout. It's interesting that you mentioned that 5,000. I have a funny feeling I remember you guys talking about this, and I worked bids, and I just couldn't get a fill. Sucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, way to go. Here's one that woulda, coulda, shoulda, but I didn't. So way to go if you guys made money on this. Very back and forth, man. You got it. I mean, this is a good analogy of why trading, these little ones is so gut wrenching. This is a daily chart. So one day you're a millionaire. The next day you're back in the poorhouse. Millionaire, poorhouse. Millionaire, back and forth. Drive you crazy. I love to see on balance volume breakouts. Like quite literally, all we're doing is just riding on this guy's coattails right now. 38,000, and he did it, looks like at around 7160 or so, somewhere in there. Oh, I guess 8,900, right down to 7160. So, the bull is riding this guy's coattails. As soon as he decides he's done, this story will be over. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he's still got a ways to go.
I would have to say, if anybody deserves it, I do have to get on my very quick soapbox for a second here, and just put out that Pat and Doug, those guys are some of the hardest working, best devs I've come across so far.
Okay, that's
cryptocurrency, and if anybody deserves to get the love these guys do.
All right, so we actually have a last-minute addition to the chat here.
Yes.
Kaz from Kazonomics.
Dude, I love Kazonomics. I love all you guys a lot. Brian's been making great calls, but I love what Kazonomics does.
How you guys doing? Good to be here.
Good. How are you doing?
Hey,
What's going on?
Right. It's about the delay, a little family delay for me, but I'm back. Did I miss the bulk of the convo? What did I miss?
I'll wind it up. We talked about Litecoin and what happened with Litecoin today. Jack seems to think, which makes plausible sense, that the Bitfinex ordeal today led towards people buying Litecoin and getting their shit off the Finex exchange. Brian loves the way Litecoin looks because it's just like classical eating tails and coming back up. I guess Phoenix Rising kind of scenario.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Veracoin, or made a good point there.
Yeah, Veracoin and then Vertcoin.
Right.
So there's quite a few altcoins that are, I guess, coming back. But We can definitely use your opinion, I guess, on our next topic. So earlier this week, Polonex actually got a margin trading on altcoins. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this good news.
Well, it took long enough behind BTCE to see anybody else figure out how to add leverage to an altcoin, which I was pretty surprised it took this long to see it happen. BTCE, which many people have overlooked as an exchange among the exchanges, that was always my favorite back in 2014. And I watched them mastermind a lot of the pumps in PPC, NMC, and BTC and LTC from that exchange. It wasn't really running from China as many people believed. That lead pump you see on Litecoin, if you look at it, there's 2 failed test pumps ahead of that gigantic pump, which tells me somebody knew about the Phoenix issue a mile in advance. It wasn't just that spike today. There was 2 big spikes where they tried to test pump it, or they did test pump it, heading into the pump of Litecoin today. So that Phoenix issue, and BTC Drac had made some mention about Phoenix having some serious issues, and you could see it in the tape. Something weird's going on inside that exchange.
Yeah, that's a good call, and it's interesting that we were just talking about the semen indicator. Just say that again. We were just talking about the semen indicator, and apparently he was pumping it too. So yeah, it's like there was a pump for sure on this one, eh?
Yeah, a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon for Litecoin, and they were happy with it. Well, imagine if you were doing margin trading on Litecoin today when it went up, like 20% if you were on a long. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been crazy. If you had the long end before it took off, that would have been a hell of a day for you.
Oh, dude, that'd be like retirement.
Yeah, I don't know. Litecoin seems too volatile for me to do leverage trading on. I don't even want to touch it.
Hey, Kaz, what are you seeing for topside for Litecoin? What are you feeling on that one right now?
I didn't think it was going to get through 2, to be honest.
I think it's a one-time thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any legs to it. No, Litecoin's pump and a move like that is probably 90% likely to be bullshit.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, get a chart up here.
Yeah, speaking of margin trading, I stay away from margin trading after the Christmas wrecked I got UK the end of last year. I got super wrecked.
Christmas is great. We were shorting that thing, everything that was available to short all the way down to the ground. We were short and heavy about 300 on BTC. I think you guys remember that. We had like a tweet campaign going on there.
That's what I was doing as well. I was shorting it, but I just got greedy, and I didn't get out. It got short squeezed. It was bad.
Down at 108? Yeah, I remember when it got down there. I think a couple big traders were still hitting it down to that low and got nailed.
All right. Guys, I'm not sure how involved you are in the altcoin scene, but are there any coins that I guess are on your radar right now that you're kind of interested in, or what's in the crypto space that interests you this week?
I mean, I watch just really the big caps. Ace is the guy who watches like every single one of them and knows what's going on in every dev crew and understands what the implications are and what the value is of an altcoin innovation versus another one. That's not really my forte. I trade, I'll trade Dash and Black and all the big ones. If you guys remember when I did the interview with Bob Surplus back in early March, I said that something old would be new again, which was referring to the alt wave of all the old big caps, which all came back around and went crazy. I think we saw the volume surge we were going to see for a little bit come through alts, and like everything that's cyclical right now, when everybody started to kind of detect alts were back, you know how it works, that no great idea is widely shared. As soon as the crowd recognized the alts were back, alts died again. So I think we're patiently waiting for another tide of volume to come through alts.
Well, I think it kind of follows the stock market a little bit in a way, like what Brian was saying, like buying in December and then sell in May and walk away. Like maybe altcoins kind of follow that as well.
That's an old adage, yeah, that markets can go into a lull for summer, and that does happen sometimes. I don't know if that cycle is necessarily going to play out in alts. I have a lot of traders in my rooms, and I have seen, with the crypto market, the trader base is pretty young. A lot of guys, are going to summer, coming out of school, and there are a lot of changes for people who are in the marketplace because our demographic is that young. So you might have a similar effect that, in May, that there's going to be a drop-off that's significant because a portion of the market's not in the market. But as GBTC, the ETF here, closes its gap up with the spot price and gets any liquidity to it, if Wall Street does step in to create some liquidity via the ETF, that would be interesting to watch going through summer.
No, I'm definitely hoping we see more of these ETFs. Like watching the GBTC ETF, the price just doesn't seem to follow the rest of the market. But I imagine once we get more of them, we're going to start seeing, I guess, a lot of price divergence and maybe a little more everything, I guess, starting to follow along the same sort of course. Like everything will kind of go up together, maybe.
Yeah, you got to understand about that GBTC though. There's a problem there that most people don't understand, and that is that it's trading on the OTC market right now. And I actually think what's really it's interesting that you mentioned the GBTC. I believe that it's actually telling you the future of Bitcoin's price. In that, what I think's going to happen is they're going to bring it down to that listing price, and then they're going to graduate it to the NASDAQ. So when they do that, though, the NASDAQ print won't show that high price that we saw in the pre-market. Like, did you guys notice? Like, there were some people getting shares off at all-time highs on Bitcoin. I don't know whether you guys saw that or not.
Yeah, I did.
And it was funny. There was a guy on, I think it was Zero Hedge or Seeking Alpha or something. He was coming out saying, "Do not buy this thing. It's trading like at 100% premium to net asset value." And as soon as that came out, boom, market came right back down like a rock. So I think what you're seeing with GBTC is a little bit of OTC monkey games. And I've seen that before. You have to understand, guys, OTC guys, they do not have any legal obligation to tell you the truth. The one that I would follow that I'm really interested in is the ETF that's trading out of Scandinavia right now. It was just listed, I think, on the Stockholm Exchange. Do you guys familiar with this story? My guys, they love following it, and it's following the Bitcoin spot price really closely. I could find the symbol out if you guys don't know it off the top of your head. I can't remember it just off the top of my head. Any comment? Have you guys been following the Scandinavian ETF?
No, I haven't been following that. I like to watch the U.S. markets. That's who's going to lead this thing.
They do.
Okay, that stopped in its tracks. I'll go back on mute. I just thought it was your audience.
No worries in bringing that up. I'm not following it per se, but the U.S. markets and Wall Street's the dirtiest players in the game. That's anybody's going to manipulate and control a Bitcoin. It's going to come from New York.
Well, and that's why I like the Scandinavian one, because they listed it. They gave a Bitcoin indexing to it, and it's following the spot price exactly. And so what I think's going on with that GBTC is, like I said, that's typical OTC monkey games that you're seeing going on there. Soon as it's listed on the NASDAQ big board, then I think you'll see it trade with spot much closely. I also saw, too, earlier this week, the NYSE has a Bitcoin index, too. I don't know whether you guys saw that or not. But the NYSE now has a Bitcoin index that they're tracking, and it's part of their index basket now. So in essence, Bitcoin has been officially marked to market.
Well, I'm going to share here a screen with you. GBTC. So right here, I just put the green line is GBTC, the ETF, and because of obviously intraday is just 6 hours, where BTC is 24-hour. This is BTC overlaid here, fitting to the hours of the stock day. And we can kind of see a little bit of correlation to movement between the assets, but there's no liquidity for this. And like you're saying right now, are we able to short GBTC? I don't even realize if we can do that or not. Anybody know?
On the OTC market, I would imagine so. Yeah, in fact, yes, I do. I know for certain that one of my site guys posted there was a short list that actually showed short sales. So, yeah, I could confirm that you can short sell it.
Hang on a sec. Yeah, I think we should see better correlation between these what is a similar asset on two exchanges than we're seeing right now. That hasn't really happened yet, but I do think that's something that's got to happen. If there's going to be more liquidity at GBTC, it's going to sync up better with these exchange prices.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the public audience from a guy who's worked in the stock market forever, do yourself a favor and just be very careful on that GBTC. That's just my simple message. Just
There's
go
shenanigans
slowly.
there now. I agree. That thing is trading crazy. For them to come out with the price they did on it when the spot price was trading where it was, somebody had to know what they were doing. Not total idiots should be in there.
But did you notice that before it was trading, it actually sat there at 13 and an eighth forever? Did you see that? And that scares me because what that tells me is I think that might be your floor on Bitcoin. But that's a whole other
That's a good
conversation.
point when you see that, yeah. That price doesn't just exist for no reason.
That's right. And it just sat there. And I kept asking people, okay, smarty pantses, why is it sitting at 13 and an eighth? It's before it even started trading. And then all of a sudden it took off. And like I said, you nailed the nail on the head. We have a lot of people involved in the crypto space that really don't have a lot of experience. And I would imagine that a lot of the Wall Street sharks, they're probably going to try and take advantage of the public as much as they can. So yeah, just reiterate that GBTC, until it actually is listed on the big board, just go carefully on that. And also, like what I can understand that that they would move the market in tandem with Bitcoin price, and then one day it'll gap like $10 lower, and you'd be like, "What the hell?" I've seen it happen before.
I mean, in a market full of people without experience, you would think that a lot of things would be different than regulated to non-regulated markets. Did you guys see that story about the banks that were caught rigging the FX market and were fined $6 billion after making like a $92 billion profit?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you look at the LIBOR scandal. I mean, basically the whole intermarket, the intermarket system in the UK was all just basically a fraud.
Oh, believe me, I was originating mortgages on the LIBOR spread when that.
You were in the trenches, eh?
I was selling paper, all that stuff. It was kind of funny. I saw that.
What did you guys used to call them? The Muppets?
Oh, I never called them Muppets, but I know that back in 2003, 4, and 5, when I was going from being a loan officer to a mortgage broker to a correspondent, I remember asking guys I worked with, like, why exactly does a London interbank offer rate have anything to do with our real estate market whatsoever? It's like, aren't we independent of London? And nobody could explain why that spread, was a dominant spread in mortgages for us. But obviously, when the LIBOR began to run there with the adjustments by the Fed, the housing bubble was a manufactured crisis for us.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's a whole other conversation, eh? Well, and I should have a beer one day, sir.
Well, the reason I was getting to that was, like, we talk about people in Bitcoin and crypto being inexperienced and Wall Street being another grade. One thing I talk about a lot in my rooms is that this crash cycle that you see on my screen. Are you guys seeing my screen right now?
Yep.
This cycle, we see the shitcoins. Like every single shitcoin cycle that happens in a week looks like this chart when it's done. And this behavior is not really specific to asset or market or professionals, non-professionals. But this is the behavior of a crowd. And this is just a shape it makes when you transfer a wealth of value from a place where information is not widely known to where it's widely distributed. And every idiot shows up, and the idea can no longer be sold to anybody else. And then you have your crash cycle in the back end of it. I put this chart to show something, from crypto to regulated markets. Of course, there's no chart there. What the hell just happened? Hang on. I'm missing a chart. The reason I showed this is because in here, I made a graph of Blackcoin, right? A crypto cycle back last 2014 in April. And this might pass people by without really thinking about it. But if you think about it, this is the NASDAQ. And this is Blackcoin. And I was able to do it with the group, trade off of points in NASDAQ cycle on Blackcoin.
That's
and
crazy.
do it on piggy coin. So does it require sophistication and regulation for the manipulation and transfer of wealth to really occur? Not really. This is a behavioral trait of humans, regardless of the rule structure of the game they're in. Whether it's tulips, stocks, or a shitcoin, the crash cycle is predominant. It's in every market. You know, it doesn't have to be Dow Jones and Nasdaq from 1929 to 2000. This is the behavior of people, not the technology of the time, not the markets of the time, not that it's a shitcoin, you know, and even down to the fact that I could actually, why is these cutting out? Model a black coin trade. This whole group of us did this trade, the CoinKite news surge. We were able to map out the segments of the Nikkei cycle, all the key cycles that happened in the crash cycle of the 1989 Nikkei, the 2000 Nasdaq, and map it on top of Blackcoin. This should put to rest any notion that whether it's regulated, unregulated, gold, stocks, or shitcoins, that it's more about behavior in the market than it is anything else. So manipulation always looks the same. You see, you know, FX market catch a bunch of banks rigging it. You catch, you know, a couple pumpers, you know, the iconic experts of the world, Prometheus, that rig a coin and pump it by having the information, having control of the dev, having control of supply. The mechanics of how you transfer wealth from people is not any different. So, you know, whether Wall Street's in here or not, the manipulation is going to look the same.
Interesting. That was fucking a great little, like, review, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, we definitely got a lot of knowledge in the room tonight from Kaz and Brian. You guys both have some seriously awesome services available for traders to come and learn more and definitely be a part of an intelligent group. We did have Trade Ace on here on our pilot episode, which actually... looking up, we're just under 1,000 views, so if you guys want to tell your friends, then we can definitely get above that number. But we're glad to have the Trade Ace, and then you, Kaz. Maybe one day we'll also get a Fractal Hedge here to compete the trio.
Need a better time frame though. Fractal's in Netherlands, so right now I think it's like 5 in the morning for him. But for sure, we're all down to come pay a visit.
We do Saturday shows for the European crowd sometimes.
Yeah,
so we can do that on a Saturday.
We mix it up a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's cool. Yeah, dude.
So yeah, I'm glad you managed to join us, Kaz. So I think what are we at? Like an hour here? Well, we could probably start wrapping this up. Maybe getting into Bitcoin price predictions for next week.
Let me just throw one more thing in here that's really cool. That sort of backs up what Kaz is saying. I'm a big fan of what they call the January barometer. And I went back on Bitcoin, and it's quite remarkable how closely Bitcoin's price through the year follows what happens in January. And this was this January, and this was the first third of the month. And it's fascinating, the correlation between what actually happened through January and April and what happened through the first third of January. And this is what I'm warning people, which really scares me, and we look at that GBTC initial price at 13 1/8 and all this. Look at what the middle of January did. It just fell out of bed. So I've overlaid the projections. The irony of it all is, I personally believe, I think 2015 is going to be kind of like, we're going to look back on it, especially when we go into the mayhem of 17 and 18, this was kind of like a wash year. I got a funny feeling that, there's going to be some wild swings, but at the end of it, it's going to be kind of a year that we kind of really are not overly impressed with.
Yeah, but that's what happened last year, Brian. We had a shit year last year also, if you remember, maybe we don't, but...
Well, this is the mechanics of Kaz's cycle, right? I mean, basically, this is the painful living through the market deflating the bubble, right?
Right. So do you think, I just got 2 questions for you. Like, so there's a big bubble period happening right now in almost every sector except for minerals. Like the tech sector is blowing up right now. We got Uber at over 40 billion. We've got Shopify just did a good IPO. They walked away with a good chunk. Lyft got
7 billion. I think.
Lyft got 100 million out of ICANN. So it's just like, what are you guys seeing happening right now? you mentioned the craziness of a 16 and 17 coming up. Are we heading into? We're in boom right now, but where do you guys see this going? Like,
well, you see all this money pouring in, and if you guys think about it, let's talk about the adoption wave and the going notions in crypto about adoption and decentralization being the thing to take down central banks. I've been talking about this since I popped up, and crypto, like CR said, is grossly lacking experience, in global markets and information. And you have a lot of guys that have a lot of skills in coding and creating these innovations and transferring value and securing networks and a non-tech and all that stuff that's going on. But the dream of Bitcoin as a technology and, for blockchain and for transferring value and cashless system and all that, to take hold in the marketplace, like the maturely developed economic marketplace out there, it's a long way off. I think a lot of people don't remember the dot-com bubble too well, and the dreams and all of the ideas that were surrounding how dot-com was going to change the world in 1998 through 1999, 2000. Here we are after the iPhone and Android race and mobile technologies really helped proliferate internet as a part of society as it goes. It took a good 10 years before it really had traction. You look at where Bitcoin's introductory period is and to this massive spike we did in 2013. I don't think it's anything much to compare Bitcoin's cycle to the dot-com cycle, and look at the NASDAQ boom of 2000 and look where the NASDAQ took to get back to where it was, and the technologies that were introduced in the 1999-2000 era, and see today where we are 15 years later. I think
and the NASDAQ is not through those highs yet.
No, it's taken, you realize the cycle that you just sat through is pretty incredible. The macro economy does 16 to 18 year cycles. CR, I'm sure you're familiar with looking at that across 100 years. The way the market moves, it's not, people are never looking when it's a great idea. That's something that you always know. And the whole of the Bitcoin space that's still staring at this thing reminds me every bit of everybody in the dot-com bust when it was coming down in 2000 that couldn't wait for the next boom cycle. None of those people are here today when the boom cycle came back.
Well, and you mentioned earlier what bothered the thing that bugged me the most was when somebody said altcoins are back, and I'm like, oh no, that's like the kiss of death.
As soon as I saw that hashtag, I'm like, oh, that's over. I was like, unreal. I was like, when you notice it, you're late.
Yeah, that I was like, oh man. But what I would say with the stock market, and you got to understand that May is generally a happy period for us in North America, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're feeling pretty good about life, right?
Yeah.
You often see, and you have to understand, just like we were talking a moment ago, we are very emotional creatures. So when we are feeling really good, and keep in mind the market is nothing more than a reflection of how we feel collectively.
Yeah.
So if we are feeling really good, and let's face it, people probably got tax refunds in April and May, and they're spending money, and quarterly earnings, or actually they've been a little bit disappointing in that, so we won't go there. But just generally speaking, seasonally, this is when people, I should hear out of your lips, Decentral, that hey man, things are rocking and rolling, things seems great. Unfortunately though, that's often a bit of as Kaz was saying, that's usually when the public's feeling pretty good, that might be a bit of a warning sign that maybe the party's near an end.
It's always that way. I mean, if you think about how a crash cycle actually forms and works, right? Again, this is the chart I did a year ago in Bitcoin, and I was talking about it in March 2014, and that the structure was crash cycle-like. When you have this rapid rate of change in the marketplace and this exponential growth of demand over supply and the volume, and the bulk of people didn't even participate in it. I got a feedback from somebody. If you look at the pump, right, the 2013 cycle, you look at the pump wave, the bulk of people didn't participate in the parabolic. People were terrified. At every point this was going higher, people were fearing the end was coming. It's after this move happens and the fear comes out of the market that people start to become complacent and then start to try to catch it. If you look at it coming down, look at this. Look at the volume going up, and look what's happened coming down. every bag holder and libertarian and nut job out there has figured out now Bitcoin should go to the moon. After it went to the moon. This is what really makes the crash cycle work. And the crowd is not the smart money. You know, ultimately they're the grease in the wheel that lets this thing move back and forth. And we look at things like the Nasdaq. This is the S&P 500, the boom cycle for the dot-com bubble. Don't worry about all the stuff I wrote. But the shape of price, this parabolic, if you remember the 1990s, people weren't like cheerleading Hillary Clinton. They were shitting. They were trying to impeach him. There were people fearful of this ending, blah, blah, blah. When George Bush got into office, everyone settled out and were looking for the boom that had just passed. It took 15 years before this thing came back. And again, under Obama, the year was epic, the deficit, QE, all of the things to keep people from touching this the entire way again. That's the real mechanic of how a pump works. Because if a pumper is going to push a coin, everybody can't feel like the pumper, or he won't have any supply to control, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So market structures reduce themselves when the crowd does not want it. You guys remember March 2009? There is nobody that wanted to buy U.S. assets.
Yep.
That's where the pump comes from. And coming out of George Bush Sr., it was the same shit. He was going to Iraq. We were in a recession. Nobody wanted to go into a Democrat's hand.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Kaz, how old are you?
I'm 36.
No, it's really interesting because, I mean, Brian and me are in the same, like, we're in the same sort of age group, a little bit older than you. And Brian, you remember everything Kaz is saying is completely accurate. You know what I mean? And
they're impeaching him for Monica Lewinsky here. In 1998, they're trying to put Clinton in court and impeach the president in the greatest stock boom ever seen with a surplus. Enter Obama. He's got gas at half price. Supposedly all our enemies are dead. The market, if you look at the market capitalization growth of this boom, it's like $17 trillion market cap gains in the biggest savings account of America, which no one invested in. So when you look at the return on this, it's epic.
So you're an echo? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Who's got feedback?
We can't hear it here, but if you're hearing it, Brian, I'm sorry. Everybody else is muted except for us over here, so I'll try muting.
No.
But the one thing I want to ask you, Brian and Kaz, or the other two boys too, if they want to jump in, is that you know how we have these cycles, right? That we were just talking about, the crash and the boom and bang, boom and bust cycles. Pump and dump cycles. But as we're moving through time, are those cycles like contracting? Uh-oh, did we lose somebody?
What do you mean contracting? I mean,
well, you know, like it used to take 18 years. Does it still take 18 years?
It's different. Well, I showed you that with regard to like the black coin cycle or the piggy coin cycle. You know, the cycle is the duration that it takes to run is just the amount of participants that are in it. That's all. So when you look at the fractal of, let me go back and show you this.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you.
So take away the time label on a chart and just look at the structure of price. And what you see here is like, you know, black coin, this is April 8th. I know the text is small. April 8th to May 21st. This is the entire Nikkei cycle that ran across 15 years, and the Nasdaq cycle 15 years, taking place in 2 weeks. So it's not specific to time, it's specific to the size and scale of the market. The shape of price will always look alike, but the duration it takes for it to occur is not necessarily the same, you know? So I matched up a 15-year cycle here, years, to the structure of price in 2 weeks, and then I did it again with piggy coin. Parabolic, your complacency, your dump out, you know, your this low point in the cycle of the crash right here, you have a consolidation, which we call a shockwave formation. Price rolls and then bounces into that same exact area. You'll see that happen, and this is just the shape of the market's aftermath. So this isn't specific to time. If I wiped out the time scale down here and the symbols, you really couldn't tell me different what's going on, but what you'd know is what's happened to the group of people that are involved in this asset. You know, whether it's the Dow Jones or anything like that. These scales are taking this size because this is the size of these markets. These are whole countries involved in these pump and dumps. But at the end of the day, the manipulation looks the same. Crypto is just a smaller scale. So you can wipe out this time scale, you can wipe out this price, and you think of this just as a graph of the motion structure of the market participants of this particular asset. That's all you're really looking at. So when we look at the crash cycle of Bitcoin here, you know, Bitcoin's crash cycle is not taking place in the same time scale at all. Hang on. Oh, that's the wrong one. I was like, where the heck is the rest of the pictures? Oh, there it is.
This is very, very, very cool. This has been a really good. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, guys, I'm really glad you all came out.
Yeah, sorry about my delay there in timing. I'm trying to
I'm glad you still managed to come because it's always good to hear more talk of future Bitcoin price and where the market's heading. You guys are reading a lot of the same articles, but we're all kind of missing at least one. So it's good to fill in these gaps for us in the room here, and then for the people at home watching.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna finish off with what you're saying there, Kaz. And then as soon as you're done, we're gonna go into our bet for next week. So what we see is the price of Bitcoin this time next week.
Yep, this time next Friday.
Yeah.
Weekly predictions of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pretty stable to look at it from week to week these days. It's not like it was last year.
Yeah.
What I'll show you. Go ahead.
It's probably the most stable currency that's out there right now, it seems.
Unfortunately, yes. So this is gold a year ago at 1300s. This is NASDAQ cycle completed. This is Shanghai when it completed in 08. And like I said, you know, when these cycles come back, if you think about any of these crash cycles that have bottomed and come back, nobody wants them when it's time to come back. And that's like what is a really major component of markets. For that to be a possibility that we're going to see another boom cycle, you got to think of it like this, right? The pumper who gains the control supply of black coin here, he doesn't have everybody in his mom talking about coin kite down under 10,000 sats. By the time we're blowing through 40 and 50,000 sats and everyone's like, oh, it's the next Bitcoin, it's the ability for the pumper to sell the perception he has here to another person that can sell to another person. At the point that everybody and their mom says, hey, yeah, black coin's the shit, who else is left to share the perception for that person to sell that asset to? That's why pump cycles look like they look. You know, once the whole crowd gets the same idea, there's no value in it. So value is really in scarcity of the idea. So that has to be understood in the marketplace to really understand, like, you know, what's going on in these cycles. Do I think that Bitcoin really has the potential to go moon with the whole market, like waiting for it to go up, and they're all sitting in it? If these guys are all sitting here with these cold wallets off exchange and holding onto their stash of Bitcoin, then they already are in. And they're not future demand to allow this perception to really, you know, change from hand to hand to hand. I think people still have to bleed out of this market. Permabulls still have to leave to give us a real shot of seeing this thing do something like we saw in 2013, and that's going to take some time.
Yeah, interesting. Kaz, I had a question for you, bro, and Brian as well, and the other two boys. Don't be shy. You guys can jump in too. Do you guys think that, or have you heard of, or do you ever use algorithms that discover these trends or flows that you've been identifying last little while here?
No, I don't use algos to do that. I do it all, you know, visually.
So scientifically, though, or thinking or theoretically, there could be an algorithm written
That's what fib lines are, right?
Yeah, to identify these sort of things coming on and give you. Yeah. So, Kaz, you could have an algorithm that would lead you towards a cycle starting, and then you could use your own perceptive capabilities to judge whether or not it's worthwhile investing or not.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving these Twitter bots that are popping up that will read on stocks, because like with the cash tags, like they're definitely now examining this whole greater fool theory. Like, okay, how peaked has this information got?
Right.
So now's the time to sell.
Yeah, this is very interesting.
So there's definitely a lot more software coming into the play, especially with like Bitcoin is now turning a lot of these software people into traders.
You know, I think about that too, and that's a funny thing. Like, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's all algos now. The market's totally different. Like, you know, look at this cycle here. This is all countries laid on top of each other, right? Let me see if I can get this to blow up where it's not being weird. So this is Japan, USA, Russia, China, Germany, bonds, and Bitcoin on top of each other. When you look at them all and you see this repetitive pump cycle that can happen in every nation, right? This is before there were any algos in the market. There are algos in the market here, and HFT is born in 2006. And there's algos sitting now. it doesn't really, to me, matter that you have computers speeding up the behavior or, ping pong bots jumping in front of bids of people putting them up. At the end of the day, the money that come out of the market is coming from the dumbest money out there. The greatest amount of money to transfer value out of is out of the dumbest set of people who don't have algos. And I make the analogy: if I'm going to make $1 billion selling cans of Coke, I'm not going to sell a can of Coke to another billionaire. I'm going to sell a 50-cent can of Coke to 2 billion people. So when you look at it, the algos are all designed to get in front of and transfer value from the dumbest amount of money in the market. So it doesn't matter that it's going to cause or not. The shape of prices is going to change. I've been looking at this since the 1929 crash cycle in Dow Jones, the 2000 cycle in the Nasdaq. Do they look any different? Does it matter there's algos or bots, or does the shape of price really just about the human participant and their behavioral curve? I don't think.
You're like Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky here, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. It just seems so. I feel so depressed after watching this. Let's have that.
What do you mean? I don't get it. Why would you be depressed about that? Why did I say it was depressing?
Oh, I mean, I'm just injecting some levity. I hope we don't, Well, there are ebbs and flows in these crashes, and I think, like this past December through May here, we've been given some opportunities to make some great money in the crypto space. I mean, it's just been fantastic. And really, all I want to do is follow the chalk marks. I would hate for people to leave this thinking that. I guess the feeling that I'm getting from your material is I'm feeling kind of depressed about crypto and how it's just it's almost like a victim of circumstance.
It's playing into the natural cycle. Like I said, you look at the dot-com bust and to where the technologies that were being introduced in 2000 and their evolution began to really proliferate and take hold in the market. Look at the time, between it.
Well, and so what's really cool about that is, I was a broker through the dot-com nonsense. And the irony of it all is that there were companies that were bid up to just ridiculous valuations. And if we had done some fundamental analysis, we would have been like, yeah, they're garbage. Don't buy them. And they were the ones that destroyed the NASDAQ. Like, do you remember pets.com? I mean, it was a total joke, right?
I remember all of those, yeah, man.
Yeah. So, but in the midst of that, there were gems. There were stories that actually did half decent. I mean, technically, Apple, I guess. Amazon. You could argue if you could, I mean, if you could have bought Amazon through the trough of that .com mess, Jeff Bezos did quite well. So I believe that there are going to be diamonds in the rough here that will buck the overall trend. And what I find really interesting is last fall, I actually did an experiment where I took a bunch of BTC, and we knew that we were in the face of a nasty downtrend, and I just sprinkled it amongst a whole bunch of little alts. And ironically enough, what actually ended up happening was as BTC's price came down, the little alts, they actually moved up. And the ending balance of the account was almost as if I had done nothing. Isn't that odd? So
diversified, right? I could see how that would happen.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, I appreciate your message, right? And I think you're spot on. But I hope to think that there is something for us to do if we're bulls. And some of the stories that we've gotten here from some of the people on these shows, man, they just, I mean, like, it's too bad you weren't here right at the beginning of the show today. We were talking about all the, like, I had a little altcoin that went up like fourfold this week. And I was like, wow, where the heck did that come from? So you get surprised.
Generally, the big pump is coming out of total surprise, isn't it? Nobody's eyes on when it gives you the pump, and that's always the case.
So I apologize if that sounded derogative. It certainly wasn't meant to be. I just hope that we're a little bit more optimistic about crypto.
I want to ask the other investor here about his Dow Gold chart in a second. I'm going to cover one last thing, and then I want to see what CR has to say about what he's got up there.
Okay, after you talk, I think Jack would really like to say something. So
Jack's not mad. We just like Jack aside. How you doing, Jack?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Not too bad. I don't think we've ever spoke before. I think we see each other online a lot.
Yeah, I think it's the first we've spoken.
It's the first, yeah. What I was going to show you here is this is the Dow Jones from 1915. CR, you might find this interesting. We talk about debt and why crypto's decentralized architecture and what it means for controlling debt in society, why it's important. Now, we talk about an idea being valuable when it's scarce. Anybody out there know anybody who thinks the national debt levels of the United States is a good thing? Nobody, right? Everybody's pretty ubiquitous that the United States debt picture means like we're about to end at any given second and be the next Greece. Now,
But
that's
the irony of it all is if you actually look at all the G10 countries, the United States balance sheet is actually one of the better ones.
it's a game of relativity, right? Like if I put 5 guys on 5 boats that all have holes in the boat and they're leaking, it's about which one's leaking the fastest that's going to go under.
Yeah. No, I agree. I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue your thing.
You're good. So when I look at it, I look at the logarithmic Dow Jones for 100 years. Now, for 100 years since the Federal Reserve has existed in printing paper, people are terrified of the beginning of the end, from this 1929 crash and so on. But if you really look at the structure of markets, right, this is about the cycle it takes for people to be disillusioned. From this collapse of 29, I guarantee you nobody was bullish coming out of World War II heading into the Korean War for this pump. And you see the market do the same cycles, right? These are the size of the cycles in the large-scale markets. You have your consolidation, you have a pump wave. You have a consolidation, you have a pump wave. You have a consolidation, you have a pump wave. And for somebody to be really calling the end of this at every single cycle without really putting this into context, it's absolutely ludicrous that people are still doing that. But what is the base?
Well, okay, slow down. I mean, there's 2 or 3 big issues that are going on here, right? The first is you do understand that the Dow Jones Industrial Index is a completely manipulated index, right?
All things in markets are. This is one thing. Like
so,
that everything you're comparing is a manipulation of people versus people.
Well, you could look at gold. Technically, an ounce of gold that you bought in, say, 17th century is still the same ounce of gold as today. But the point here is that this, and for people that are investing for their retirement, I say go and buy the Dow ETF. Because the powers that be, do you think that the irony of the Dow is that as soon as you get a few underperforming stocks, they just kick them out and they just go grab a couple that are doing really well. I mean, it's a completely manipulated index.
Yeah,
right
it represents the top brass, but it does reflect something that's not seen in this equation.
Okay, so and then the second thing that I want to say, and this is really important. Okay, and actually go back to that other chart because it's a really cool chart. I'll show you the same chart I have.
The other part of it that I didn't show you yet. So there's the top part, what I just showed you. The bottom part's the medium of exchange that the Dow Jones is denominated in. This is the 2 pieces of an equation that are always separated. Everyone's always worrying about the debt and the dollar printing. But when you think about the dollar printing tied to debt, then you understand that the assets of the country are what's being leveraged. So while the people hold paper, the pump of the assets is actually in direct relationship to the debasing of the currency. They're not separate. This is why people keep on calling the end of the debt cycle. As your GDP produces new assets, you're pumping assets in a depreciating medium. This is the actual 2 sides of the equation that's misunderstood here. This is basically.
But that you could argue that that's simply reflected in financial or hard asset proxies, right? I mean, the price of gold in 1932 was pegged at what, like $30 an ounce. If the purchasing power of the United States of America was the same, then gold would still be $32 an ounce. I wholeheartedly agree with you. The irony of this cycle in particular is that basically the politicians have said, we're not going to do anything about this. And so the only solution is to dilute the shit out of your currency. That's the only solution. And that's the reason why.
The dilution comes at the price of debt that's attached to your treasury, and whether you have bonds that allow China to steal your highways back that you don't pay, you service the debt money comes into existence directly in relationship to the asset base of the nation. So it's not like you just print the paper like into space, into a vacuum, but it does have a direct relationship with the amount of gross domestic product and new assets being brought into production in the local economy.
You could argue too, though, that we live in a world that must grow, right? Like you understand that.
Yeah,
if we don't grow, then Bitcoiners, they go yoo-hoo, because the whole fucking system's going to collapse, and the U.S. dollar will be worthless, right? And it'll be absolute
Bitcoin's working on the
chaos.
basis that the medium of exchange is finite, and so the more dollars of economic activity you can force through, it's going to expand the ledger, and that does make.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it has a finite supply, right? I mean, that's the reason why people think there's some sort of value to Bitcoins. And your charts here clearly illustrate, right, that the United States of America, after the end of the Second World War, they were put in a very, special situation. Nobody had a choice. They had to deal in U.S. dollars, right?
Mhm.
So as a result, the world has sort of had to abide by this economic situation where the Americans just keep diluting the crap out of their currency to pay for their lavish lifestyles. At some point, this is going to come to a head. The question is, what's the alternative? As soon as there's a viable alternative to US dollars, I think the world will run into it. There just is no viable alternative on, like,
In the G7,
macro
no
scale.
other countries doing it differently. Every country is adding debt, and I don't think looking at it as like they add debt to pay for their lavish lifestyles is really the way to look at it. The central bank is helping the facilitation of debt tied to the country with interest, because that is the mechanism that transfers wealth out of the country's production. The interest that is required on debt. You put $10 billion.
Okay, all right, so you just hit on the second point that I really wanted to touch on. And we're talking like super macroeconomics here, so sorry guys if we went off on a tangent.
No
All right, I
worries.
just want to jump in and say this is amazing. But before you go off, Brian, there are nations in the world that don't run in deficits, right? Isn't Germany like one of them, or Norway or something?
Well, some of the blue-eyed sheiks, they have massive oil revenues, and so they run in surplus, and their sovereign fund is like just trillions of dollars. But that's another conversation. I think just this point that I think is really important is that we need to understand that economies are driven by demographics. And I believe that actually Kaz's chart, and put it back up there, of the Dow, what's really interesting is if you look at my chart here that I'm screen sharing, is you actually see that as generations move through their life cycles, there are specific assets that they prefer to own. And if you think about the baby boomers, right, when they went through their sort of life cycle, they had a dramatic effect on the economy. And what's ironic, the old adage, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. In 1980, there was lots of talk that the United States was going to go out of business. Capitalism was over. And I often joke with my students that one of the analysts who developed the on-balance volume indicator, his career almost got wiped out because he said, sell the Dow at 1,000. Capitalism is over. Right? So what we need to understand is that these demographic forces actually drive money flows in our society. And when these demographic forces get to sort of pivots in their life cycle, it has dramatic effect as to the preference of assets. I believe right now the baby boomers, they hit their peak earnings years into the dot-com bubble, and which saw the the trough in 1980 to the peak in 2000. The Nasdaq went up something like a 40-fold increase, right? That's a pretty dramatic growth rate. And as we pointed out earlier, since that dot-com boom, the Nasdaq has yet to go to new highs. So basically, 15, 20 years of 40-fold increase in growth, and now 15, 20 years of nothing, no growth, right? The Nasdaq has basically gone nowhere for 15 years. So the simple message I have here is, I think the cycles are correct. I believe that we are in a quote-unquote consolidation phase. These cycle durations, remarkably, are incredibly predictable. And I showed you were referencing that gold Dow chart that I had on my screen earlier, and you were curious about
This is
that.
it right here. I have it too. So yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
So the simple message is, and actually if you look at the market mechanics right now, I believe that commodity prices were taken up dramatically through a commodity-friendly president. As soon as a commodity unfriendly president came along, growth proxies have come back. And the one proxy that the Democrat Party really likes is a strong U.S. dollar. And we've basically seen that over the course of Mr. Obama's presidency. I believe that these cycles, these demographic cycles, come to an important pivot in 2017, 2018, and I believe that we're actually setting the stage over the 2015 period for that bull cycle in commodities. And my hunch is this is going to be one hell of an orgy of buying in commodities heading into this peak.
So
Anyway.
let's look at this gold. This is yellow line gold right here, right? You've been following gold for how long? For like 20 years. You've seen the gold cycle. It's been crazy.
Right. So if you look at gold prices, what's really cool is look at gold prices in 1978 to 1980. I mean, they basically went up about 8 or 9-fold.
Yeah, they did a moonshot. The chart cuts off for trading view, but coming out of that parabolic spike, just like the dot-com bubble or Bitcoin, right? When you had that parabolic spike in '81, what did gold do for 18 years? It just bled away and did dog shit until 2000 when we were buying.
That's exactly what's supposed to happen to commodity assets during what we call like if you can see my screen on the chart, basically gold, you could buy one Dow Jones Industrial Unit in 1980 for 1 ounce of gold. People were fearful. This was the end of what we call the greatest generation, those people that fought in the Second World War. They were all retiring en masse, and the baby boomers were just entering the workforce here. Total chaos, confusion. By the end of that cycle, it took 43 ounces of gold to buy one Dow Jones Industrial Unit. So can you understand that this is nothing more than just a preference? How many pieces of hard asset is it going to take to buy one paper asset? During demographic peaks when the baby boomers were in their peak earnings years, it took a lot of gold because they didn't want gold, and so commodity prices were extremely low. Yeah. They bought like dot-com stocks that had no earnings, and they were just told that the internet growth was endless. It was just never going to end, and it was a sucker's play, right?
But it's more than that. Like, this is the gold Dow chart going back to '81 from stock charts. And in 2011, I pointed this out, right? We saw what you just said. It went to 43 times to get.
Yeah, that's the chart I just had on my screen that you were all excited about.
Yeah, this is it before.
This is a whole lot of. I mean, this is amazing information. I thank all of you for it and for inviting me here. But I actually have to go. I had a prior engagement. But like I said, sorry to jump in and just interrupt. This is a lot of really good information. I'm gonna have to come back and catch the rest of this later on YouTube. You guys put out a lot of quiet.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
Another video.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there's going to be a part 2 to this.
What I was going to say to you is, crash cycle charts aside, if you look at the gold Dow as its own asset, it's a crash cycle, right? You have your blow off here, your parabolic, your complacency, and your crash move, right?
Yeah.
Forgetting all the other nuances you described, and if you look at it as paper assets to a hard asset, what you saw is from 1981, when you're almost at a 1-to-1 relationship with the Dow Jones and gold. The Dow Jones basically moonshotted the whole time that spike happened in gold and died. The Dow was able to.
What you need to understand is that was at, can you understand that in 1981-82, like here on my screen, I'll show you, that was basically the minute that the baby boomers entered the workforce, right? So here is the demographic chart of the United States of America in 1980. Can you see these baby boomers? Can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
And you see that these baby boomers were just about to hit the U.S. economy en masse, right? And so can you understand that they went to work, they collect their paychecks, they went bowling, they paid their taxes, they bought Christmas presents, they did everything that they were supposed to do, and the end result was a massive expansion in the U.S. economy. Does that make sense?
You had the central bank helping facilitate that too. When you came from Volcker to Greenspan, he definitely facilitated a lot of things. I mean, I look at it as
Well,
President
okay,
Greenspan.
so can you understand that these baby boomers entering the workforce, we talk about Paul Volcker's war on inflation, right? Can you understand that all of these are hungry mouths, right? And they're all, at this point, they're all, going to university, right? Buying their new cars. And so the economy was like, vroom, right? And so the irony of it all, you could argue, is that Paul Volcker's war on inflation was almost like a tsunami of like 3 or 4 different massive socioeconomic forces all hitting the United States all at once. You had the baby boomers coming on the scene en masse. You had the Soviet Union in 1980, the Moscow Olympics. The world looked at the Soviet Union like, you know what? Maybe these guys are not so bad. I don't know whether you were around then, but I was there.
I was around the Cold War era of the 80s, but no, I don't remember them ever thinking Russia was cool. In my time, they made rockets.
I'm talking about 1980, right? Late 1970s. You remember, Lenin, right? He used to, bash the United States all through the late 70s, right? And like I said, do you know Joe Granville? Have you heard of the analyst Joe Granville?
No.
He came out and basically said, he was a very popular analyst at the time, sell the Dow at 1,000, capitalism is over, right? And it destroyed his career. So the bottom line here is, into these demographic pivots, that's exactly when you expect to see the absolute worst case scenario talk. So into this 2017-2018 pivot, I'm looking for people to start talking about the end of the United States of America. It's going to be pretty nasty, no doubt about it, in my opinion. I used to joke with people, I don't think it's the case now. And a few years ago, if Bernanke didn't pull off his miracle, I think it could have very easily happened. But I used to joke with people that at the end of this cycle, I wouldn't be surprised if the United States of America was a military dictatorship. That's how extreme these cycle moves can be. If there's a serious run, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this valuation change between 42 to 1 on the Dow and gold ratio, this bleed off, this entire movement that happened is actually really missed, because when I put it against a few of the charts, this is it right here. This is the same chart, this purple one. Yeah. And when you look at the Dow bleed off its valuation on gold, you see it here. Gold is at 255 at this point.
I remember that day. Damn, gold jumped $20, and people were like, maybe I should buy some gold.
I bought into gold in the 270s and rode that thing through 1,000.
Good for you. Good for you.
This was the Dow's loss of valuation, right? And here's the top of the NASDAQ at the same moment.
Okay, so let me ask you, who was elected President of the United States right around there?
No, it's George Bush Jr. We know that.
And this is important.
Central bankers.
Well, okay, I believe differently. What constituents do the Republican Party in the United States serve? Who do they serve?
Well, they serve wealthy, and I understand where you're going with this, but my logic on it is much different. If you think about the president of a country that's in deficit, right? Think about any company you ever worked in. The guy calling the shots is the dude writing the check. The government of the United States is broke. So the boss it's misdirection. The guy who's in office through this entire economic cycle is Alan Greenspan, like President Alan Greenspan. It's not Reagan, it's not Bush, it's not Clinton. There's one person running the policies above and beyond the power of Congress that create the economic systems in this country. The debt cycle, the interest rate cycle into the top of the dot-com bubble that popped the market, interest rate cycle on top of the 2007-2008 housing bubble that was also popped by the central bank's rate cycle. The central bank is controlling the monetary base of the whole country. So I look at the guy who...
Well, central bank their job is to protect the purchasing power of the currency. So
and they have an F rating for that.
If they believe that the purchasing power of the currency is in jeopardy, i.e. inflation, then they will engineer recession. And that's your higher short-term interest rates, right? That's their job.
Belief, but I don't believe that's a going belief, but that's not what their job is. Their job is so far from that.
I believe it is.
Well, I'll show you a chart that will disprove that in one moment.
All right, we're all waiting with bated breath.
Hang on.
I've been at this game a while, so this better be one hell of a chart for me to believe it.
Well, here's the Federal Reserve's job of protecting the purchasing power of the dollar. If this was their mandate, they have an F rating. This is the U.S. dollar pumping for what? Look at the size of the spikes under Reagan's era, right? In what way is they stabilizing the purchasing power of the dollar? Tell me. You're seeing 50%,
Okay,
100% runs,
so
20%
in
collapses.
1980, that's Volcker's War on Inflation, right?
So you get a 100% pop in the dollar. You get a 40% collapse before Reagan's out. Under Clinton, you have again a run of what, 50% of the dollar. It gives it all back. You have a pump under.
Can't you see the political cycle there? I mean, you can see when.
What I'm trying to tell you is that the Fed's mandate is to expand the balance sheet in direct proportion to the asset base of the nation it's operating in, just like every other central bank is doing. They have nothing to do with protecting the purchasing power of the dollar, because that would dictate they were operating, guarding the dollar in a vacuum. Ultimately, it's a game of relativity, and there's a correlation between the ledgers of each country, the fiat ledgers of each country. So that has to be looked at more in a global cooperative between the central banks and a bank being tied to each nation, respectively. These bankers are working together. You know, look at the BOJ.
Well, what I see there is I see the political cycle in spades there. I mean, that's
remarkable. Different. Yeah, the conservatives do something different.
You do understand that technically the U.S. dollar is being controlled by the U.S. Treasury, right?
That's the theory.
So, well, according to your chart there, I think it makes perfect sense. When the Republicans are in control of the Treasury, they kick the shit out of the dollar, right? When the Democrats are in control of the Treasury, they bring the dollar back. So I can see the logic there. It's an interesting. I like the direction of the conversation. I'm just I think we have different opinions.
The Fed's mandate is to guard the buying power of the U.S. dollar, because that is absolutely not their mandate. Or if that was, that's not.
Well, you can understand that if inflation gets out of control, the purchasing power of the currency diminishes, correct?
When we say that the Federal Reserve established here and the purchasing power of the dollar here is pretty much an F for their grade as far as protecting the purchasing power of the dollar.
Well, I might argue. I keep in mind too that we're thinking that the talk is only of inflation. What happens if you have a situation of deflation?
Correct. Here, this is the deflationary bust of every single economy, coordinated by the central bank's coordination. This is why your crash cycle is happening in every nation simultaneously, because the central bankers are coordinating this deflation while we hold, inflated assets tied to them by debt, whether it be mortgages or car notes or whatever we're participating in the boom cycle with. When they claw back the assets and erase the debt that's in the marketplace and deflate the assets, then redistribute the debt and reinflate the assets while they hold them, that's the game of transferring wealth. It's just a different kind of chart that you're seeing. In 2009, nobody wanted any of these assets, and they deleted half the paper in the United States, in the mortgage world, which then repriced all assets downward. At that point, they start to put rhetoric out that the economy's in dire straits, we're not coming back, Obama's Satan, all of this, and they pump assets again with the crowd basically holding none of them, and then sell them all back to the crowd at high prices. That's the cycle of transferring value, just like a pumper in a shitcoin does, right? You don't want this shitcoin.
Well, you could argue. I can understand that argument. The irony of it all is technically the biggest and best investment return that the United States ever made was when FDR went in the Great Depression and bought up all the bad paper around the United States. Unfortunately, now we don't have politicians that are willing to do that, so the Fed's doing it for them. And frankly speaking, I don't think anybody really understands the Fed's balance sheet.
Right. There was a bailout of the auto industry by Obama. Is not considered the same sort of thing. And the banks. The banks.
When you say auto industry, they bailed out GM. And we used to make a joke, right? That General Motors was a finance company that just happened to have this side business of making cars.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that General Motors acceptance, GM paper, was one of the biggest credit markets in the world. And if they let that go, all hell would have broken loose.
So yeah, so the same could be said that about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac when they got bailed out too, right?
Well,
Right.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were actually government agencies. So how do you bail out government agencies?
Okay,
Well, they were quasi-public, quasi-government. That's the thing. Fannie had a very interesting business structure to it, and ultimately became conservatorships.
Well, I would argue that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were created during Johnson's war on poverty, right?
Yeah.
And I personally believe that there were a lot of Republican higher-ups that basically said Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are a license to print money for us because they will absolutely guarantee paper. And so what ended up happening was that the Republican machine, I mean, do you remember, Kaz, do you remember lost another loan to Ditech? Do you guys remember that?
I remember that.
It was comical how the whole system was just awash in debt, and nobody cared, right? It was a potion for disaster waiting to explode. So, you know, I don't personally buy into the mass conspiracy theory. I know some people do, and you know everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I personally don't believe in the conspiracy theory. I actually think that it's
What's conspiracy theory?
well, just that the central banks are actually fighting against you in a way here. I'm kind of hearing that tone from you. I maybe you're a fan of central banks, maybe you're not. I don't know.
They're not fighting against us, but like a pumper can't pump an asset if everybody agrees with him, right? You can't pump a shitcoin if everybody says, yeah, it's the greatest shitcoin since sliced bread. It means everybody's in it. The natural
Exactly.
If you take this as a fractal and scale it up, the crowd is massively against the idea of a central bank, centralized currency and authority, the ability to control the debt and the balance sheet of the country without the power of Congress. And so when you think of it, and I show you this 100-year pump in assets, you've got to think that the people in the bank are a little smarter than the people criticizing outside the bank.
All right. So can you understand this chart? This chart is basically your pump, right? The public gets shilled stock, right? Then 17.5 years of distribution, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Then pump, then distribute. Pump, distribute, right? That hasn't changed. That, and it will never change.
The psychology every time you do it, right? Remember, this is 1999's internet bubble where everybody now is going to 20,000. They run into distribution. Then everyone thinks Obama is Satan. Then they run into a pump. And that logic of that emotional structure of the market participants is the same every time. Coming out of here,
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And the irony of it all is, think of it this way. You know, and I said this earlier, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. And unfortunately, you know, this is basically a picture of three separate generations that we're looking at.
Correct. Right? The cycle is big enough for generations that are aware of it to be priced out of the market by the time it comes around again.
That's right. So the question ultimately here is, do you become a victim of this very real cyclical pattern in our society? Or do you take advantage of it? I would actually argue that, you know, people watching this show are the type of people that would want to try and take advantage of this information.
Well, you have to be aware of it to take advantage, and that's why I talk about a scale this big, 100 years, and the misconception of the debt and the central bank. Because when you look at what Bitcoin's main voice is by the libertarians, is to escape the clutches of the central bank, escape the centralized currency, escape the loss of buying power. And I think that entire driving force, that ideology that's driving the crypto markets, is misplaced because the bulk of the people don't understand the debt or the nature of the central bank and the relationship to assets in each local economy.
Yeah,
so in order for pump to work, the crowd is generally against the going idea of what's actually got value. And if the crowd actually doesn't understand the debt and the central bank, and that's a driving force behind Bitcoin, then that's really important to realize that the crowd, much like every other asset class that has value at the time, does not have a consensus idea that is of any value.
Right, and you know, I spend a lot of time with new people to my programs trying to deprogram them. You know, we want to think that crypto's, you know, gonna take over the currency markets. Well, it just can't. Not in
Just
its
not now.
current stage.
It's not now. Not while
Right.
everyone's eyes are on it. The
I would actually argue that crypto is just another commodity. And because it is a commodity, it is very dependent on your cyclical analysis of the boom bust cycle. Absolutely.
Every chart.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Brian,
Brian, we did a show on BitUSD last night, and
come on in here. Come right in, Kim.
it's the BitShares. It's a token that's tied to
Sorry.
it's tied to the U.S. dollar,
Yeah.
and it's been following the U.S. dollar consistently within 10% since it's been created. So it's working, and it's working in a decentralized manner. It's a blockchain contract. So technically, I would way rather hold BitUSD that's based on open source trust than something like Tether that's reserve backed. Because
I know I can't see you that well, but I know exactly who's talking. Let me put you on the full screen.
Oh, there's Cam right there. It's him.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, I can see him. Yep. And I've tried to wrap my head around this concept. You've tried to explain this to me a couple times.
Oh, really?
And I'll get it. One of these days I'll get it. I promise.
There's a really good video on it.
BitUSD, can you pull that up?
I'll tweet it to you.
And,
Yeah, do that. That's a good idea.
My intuition is that this kind of idea is going to take over simply because it's provable by mathematics rather than a centralized institution.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful part about crypto is that I guarantee you, none of us know what the heck this crypto market's going to do 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Sounds like in like 2 years though, in 2016.
Well, the other thing I have to think about too in 20 years, what the fuck? How much bloat is there going to be in the blockchain?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then I guess storage is really cheap, but it's the bandwidth it's going to take too. Like there are a lot of variables involved here for sure.
Well, I think there's a kind of a novel new thing coming out of crypto where people are saying crypto economics now.
Oh,
so you can look over the trends of the past, but the blockchain is definitely a novel concept enough to change the trajectory of some of these patterns.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I believe that the day that Bitcoin got its New York Stock Exchange index listing was basically the day the Wall Street just said Bitcoin has officially arrived.
3 days ago? 3 days ago, right? Yeah.
It was pretty recent. It was sometime this week. I honestly believe that we're actually moving into a different phase for crypto.
Yeah, and that was the well day. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, look, guys, Wall Street is finally listening to the crazy fucking hippies. You know?
Yeah.
But now, having said that, right, we all need to understand that doesn't mean that Bitcoin has seen its lows.
No, it hasn't. I agree with you on that. The fact that everyone's waiting for it, it just isn't the way a closed system works, Yeah. There's 1,000 traders in a marketplace, and we're all the traders of Bitcoin. And ultimately, one person's going to end up winning the war against the rest. The crowd has to feel a different way than the person who's in control of the supply. When this crowd's all looking for a pump and people are all still sitting off wallet, every person out there who's waiting for this thing to go moon is missing future demand. It's when nobody believes in it that those people can be turned to become future demand and buy that perception ever higher in price. That's the reason when the whole crowd feels alike, the market is saturated and there's no upward momentum. There's too many people that are already in the market and won't become future demand at higher prices. They're more likely potential sellers.
This is my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any stockings out there with Bitcoin still in them from a year or two ago?
Absolutely. There are people I talk to that got ridiculous amounts of fucking BTC and cold wallets that are holding from stupid prices.
Yeah.
I've met people with hundreds of thousands worth of Bitcoin coming down from like the 600s that still have it. Until that kind of mentality is willing to cough it up, the sentimental structure required for this asset to rise isn't there. All these people are potential supply. None of them are potential demand because they're already in. So
now, I really don't think we should yes, the short-term picture isn't great, right? We are not in a bull market right now. Now is not the time to mortgage your farm on Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean that the scenario can change in 6 months. I honestly believe that give this market a little bit more time. Just let it clean itself up. Get it to the point where when you walk down the street and you say Bitcoin, people haven't got a clue what you're talking about. And then we have the basis for a new bull market.
We also have the halving coming on in, what, months? So, 12, 14 months? So that's going to have a profound effect. Sorry, when, Jack? Jack?
Towards the end of next summer.
What is that coming on in 12 14 months?
Halving. The Bitcoin halving.
Got the exact ETA right
so,
here.
Yeah, so what Brian is saying there, like, you know, in 6 months it could be a different picture. Well, fuck yeah, because 6 months from now everybody's been waiting another 6 months for it to kick in. You know, the halving to kick in, right? So.
Well, yes and no. I thought it was interesting recently. One of my people mentioned that Litecoin's halving was coming up. Yeah. And what a coincidence, this rally. I mean, remember that chart I showed you right at the beginning of the show? I mean, that bottom is for real. There's a good-looking little bottom. My hunch is the market
That reminds me of my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, the market may go back down and test those lows, but now at least it's bought a little bit of wiggle room, eh? And we have that event coming up in, I think it's 94 days or something like that.
Yeah, it's sometime in this summer. I think in August.
95 days.
95 days?
I literally just wrote over. Yeah, like we just, it's 95 days exactly.
For Litecoin. Yeah. And what you want for the Bitcoin? What's the Bitcoin?
And then the Bitcoin.
Like 240, something like that?
Yeah, 61 weeks. It will be next August, end of August, but the Bitcoin network usually runs a little faster, so unless shit starts going down.
So can you understand that that's going to be a catalyst, right? That's going to be an event.
Yeah.
There's going to be news reports, yeah.
Well, so what you're probably going to find is that the market will bottom ahead of that event and then rally into that event. And unfortunately, like the public, that's probably when they're going to get interested in Bitcoin. Oh, it's halving. Oh, I better go buy some, right? Yeah. But unfortunately, they're buying into the top, right?
Yeah. Pumpers love halvings.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah, it's easy to sell a halving to the money.
Yeah.
So pumpers love it.
There's less supply coming on.
I wonder if that's what happened with Vert.
Guys, it's time to get into the final stretch here. We had this is one of my favorite shows ever. Alex and I were just we put it on mute. We were just having a great time while you guys were going off. But now it's time for
price bets for next week.
Price bets for next week. Woo! Okay, so is that what we're shooting it to?
Yeah, this is going to be the address. You guys can all send. We like to put $5 towards whatever bet it is, and then whoever wins gets the pot. Yeah. Like we won last week, and we used it to buy.
Actually,
pizza.
We didn't win.
Freddie won last week.
I won, and Alex spent it on pizza, which was really generous of him to do that. But I love him anyway. He made a great show today, so I'm stoked. Anyway, so we're going to go into the bet. Guys, gentlemen, what do you think? Jack, we'll start with you. Jack, what do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be this time next week?
I'm going to say 246.
246?
2.4 or 2.5?
2.4.
246 is Jack.
246.
And moving on to our buddy Kaz. Kaz, what do you think price of Bitcoin is going to be in a week?
In a week? This thing's not moving much for me to make much speculations on it. I don't think we're going to move much past the consolidation that we're seeing in cap. Prices are going to be capped. Like Phoenix price-wise, shouldn't see past 248. If it breaks 248, it's going to be pumpable. But for right now, I think it's going to trade within a range of 248. The base it's holding at 231, so I'd look for it to be probably within $5 of where it is right now.
So we need a number from you, bro.
Yeah, we need the exact number.
An exact number.
It's a silly competition, and it's totally random. So.
234.
234. Brian says that because he was exact the last time he guessed. So
there's no way I'm gonna know what the hell this thing is gonna be.
I'll give you a price of 234, 235. Somewhere right there is where I think it will be.
Oh, he gets 2 votes? I better get 2 votes.
234. Kaz gets 234.
Yeah,
Take the
234.
234.50. There we go. That's my number. 234.50 on Finex in a week.
Finex, that's right, exactly, Finex. And Brian, you're
Phoenix? Ah, damn. We're doing Phoenix, eh?
I just use that as the one I'm looking at, but you pick any exchange you want and proxy it later.
Finex is what we use.
Yeah.
I'll
Unfortunate.
take, what the hell? How about, 234.
Whoa, 234. He only gives himself 50 cents a room there.
Yeah.
There's somebody else? I'm sorry. Did somebody else get that number?
Yeah, Kaz took 234.50.
Ah,
so,
you bastard. All right, I'll take 2. I want to be right up against this damn node here. Oh, jeez. And I have to do Phoenix, right?
yes, Finex.
We go Finex.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's go for a long shot. I'll say 228. 228.
28, you got it.
All right.
I'll call the next one out if you want.
Yep.
I've been watching this thing rise by basically $10 a week since we started, and so I'm gonna call 250 myself.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And what are you thinking, Alex?
I think it's gonna probably stay exactly where it is. I'm gonna guess 240, right in the middle. So,
All
yeah, well, let's take a look at how it looks here. This is the kind of spread we're looking at, guys. And yeah, I'll tweet this screen along with the address, just so everyone's got it, and I'll send the first amount, so it's exactly $5 American, and then you guys just send the same.
Yeah, but last one was .0122 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 212 or something.
And the winner takes all, and it has to be an address we can send it back to, right?
Yeah, like whatever address you guys send it from, we'll send it back to.
Yeah, the winners get it sent back, or the winner. Yeah.
So next Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
We'll have the winner.
I thought it was not.
Yeah, next Friday. And we have a no.
Oh, is that going to affect your result, Brian, if you're up by 2 hours?
No, somebody else took my price. So anyway, yeah. So okay.
We're good. We got it written down. Okay, we didn't get Will, but we'll maybe get him in the tweeter.
Yeah. We can get he can do a FOMO on it.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. We got to wrap this up. It's been a freaking long show. It's been a great show. Kaz, thank you for making it finally. Jack, thank you for hanging in there from the beginning. Brian, once again, thank you for the history lessons. We love them all. You know?
This was a great talk, guys. I'm glad we could have you all in here, and I look forward to having you on future shows.
Brian was calling a part 2 to this discussion.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do it sometime very soon. All right, guys. So I guess we'll see you sometime in the next 1,000 blocks for Blocktalk.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for the invite, guys.
Have a great evening. Thank you, Kaz, for the conversation. Very enlightening.
It was good. All right. Good night, everybody. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. By the way, QuadricaCX.com, the best Bitcoin exchange in Canada. All right. We're out of here.
Bye.
Bye.